Tim Collis with Cullman Today. I'm down with Tony Glover and Waid Harbison. Mr. Glover, you brought in some heavy hitters from Washington, D.C. about streets and a public forum. Can you tell us about what your thoughts were and what the idea was about?
Well, the reason this came about is we actually got a grant for not a particularly good reason, and that is Cullman has a 40% obesity rate amongst adults. We were one of 14 counties in the state with that bad distinction. And as part of that, we're looking at ways to improve our citizens' health. And one aspect of that has been well researched across the country is if you can get people walking, biking, making trips on foot instead of driving, you're going to bring down their weight problems normally and make them a healthier populace. And so this was kind of an outgrowth of that. As part of that grant, it allowed us to hire these consultants from Smart Growth America's Complete Streets Coalition to come and just hopefully give us some food for thought, some ideas on how we can make our communities more pedestrian friendly to get people walking, biking, and using the infrastructure of the city on foot instead of in their automobiles.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. It was all about obesity leading to exercise, leading to how to plan a city and think about the future.
Right, and all of it's kind of tied together when you think about it. It may seem like it's not connected, but it is. And we heard from one of the speakers today that was from Washington, D.C., and she talked about how she started walking to work instead of commuting on the bus and what it did for her health-wise and reducing her weight, this sort of thing. And that's what people find out. If they start exercising just by simply walking from point A to point B within their communities, it can greatly improve their health.
Well, and part of the speaker's great point to me was about the difference between baby boomer generation and the millennial generation.
That's right. So they've got kind of different motivations. The millennials, like the young lady that talked this today, that probably wasn't her big motivator, is health, when she started that. It was an easier way to get to work in a busy, congested city. But for a senior citizen, that may be a motivator.
Yeah.
That if I can get to the store conveniently without having to get in my car, and it's safe to get there, and walk and do shopping 3 or 4 times a week rather than going in a car and stocking up for 2 weeks, I'm going to get more exercise, and it's going to be better for me in the long run, health-wise. And as the baby boom generation, I'm very attuned to that because my doctor tells me you need to lose about 25 pounds.
Well, Tony, you know, I think a lot of baby boomers think exactly the same thing, and we all face those sort of problems. How about if we talk to a millennial now? Waid, you're representing the millennials in the city of Cullman. You okay with that?
I'm pretty good with that.
Now, you were the foot soldier. You went out and did a tremendous amount of research.
Yes.
Walked the streets, put together maps. Tell us about it.
We did, yes, earlier today before our forum that we talked to these guys from Washington, we did go out on a foot tour of some of these guys to kind of just see the layout of the land, what's going on in Cullman, kind of what the struggles are, because one of the things really around here is that we've got some good sidewalks, we've got some good infrastructure in a lot of good places, but we've also got a lot of bad places, and you don't really see a whole lot of foot traffic, people walking around downtown. You don't see people biking around downtown and being active. So really we just kind of tried to look at different areas, schools and neighborhoods, parks, different places that people want to be, the businesses right in the heart of downtown, and also kind of on the other sides of town. And you know, we went out there and found some places that we realized there's some things we can really do to improve these and make it more walkable, more friendly, maybe why people aren't using those as much. That's one of the things that I said is I live, you know, about a half mile away from work, and I would have to cross Main Avenue and Highway 278, which is a very bad intersection for walking across the street. I would walk to work every pretty day that I could if, you know, there was the ability and capability there. Obviously, those are just some things that we went to look at. And the good parts, the city council has obviously done some good things in downtown right now with the warehouse district and some good places in downtown that are very good walking places that have kind of been conducive for more foot traffic.
I got you. Well, now I'm going to ask you both this question. I don't know that there's an answer, but there really wasn't a goal to this meeting other than to get people to think, particularly the city fathers, mothers, planners, right? Just put the seed out there.
Yeah, I think it was just to get people thinking about these issues a little more deeply than maybe we have. There's a tendency, I think, for towns, any type town, for the leaders to think in terms of economics. That is, we want to build a tax base, so we need businesses to do that. And that's our primary driver. Our focus is industry and businesses. But we've been very successful in Cullman, and our leaders have been very successful bringing in businesses, bringing in retail, bringing in industry But there's another piece to that puzzle, and that's livability in the community.
Sure.
We're making progress there. We got a great park and rec, but there's progress that can be made in the future. And part of it is interconnectivity of things within the city so that people can easily get from point A to point B to get the things that they need for everyday life safely and get the exercise that would benefit them from a health perspective.
Yeah, I would echo that definitely. I think one of the biggest things is obviously we're trying to get our citizens active and engaged. We want them to be able to walk and bike and things like that. It's almost changing the culture and making that something different. It's doing something different because the way it's been, there's not a lot of people that walk to work. There's not a lot of people that go biking around town. So, putting in bike paths, changing your city streets, changing it up so that it's kind of a different look and a different feel, I think it really makes a big difference for people. It's almost the, you build it and they'll come kind of mentality of, you put it out there, you do it, you change the culture. It's going to force people really to go out there and walk a little bit, exercise a little bit as part of their daily lives, which is what we're encouraging because, the big problem with obesity is these are people that are not exercising on a daily basis. They're not going to the gym. They're not getting regular exercise through an activity. So encouraging those kinds of people to walk to work, to bike to work, to be the active ones in that way, I think that's where you're going to start to make
That's
a big
where
impact.
research has shown that's where that's the low-hanging fruit. If you can just get people to do what they normally do in a little different way, that gives them exercise. That's why we've been so involved in having community gardens in our community. We just want to get people doing things in their environment that gives them exercise without having, they may not want to go join a gym, but they can get exercise just by doing their everyday task if we make it safe for them to do it.
Makes sense. Tony Glover, Waid Harbison, you're our leaders in this. We'll see what's coming up next. Why don't you keep in touch and let us know what the next steps are, okay?
We'll do it. Thank you very much.
Good to be here.